Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews. Coming to you guys with another tier list video. This one is going to be a big one. It's going to be ranking every TV show that I have seen. Alright, so I really enjoyed putting together the last couple tier list videos here on the channel, taking a look at lead characters and then side characters for some of the best TV dramas of the golden age of TV. And for that one, I kind of took more of an objective approach, looking at kind of the legacy of those characters and the shows and kind of what they mean for pop culture, looking back on the golden age of TV. But this one's a very different approach to the whole tier list ranking idea. This is obviously very subjective. It's based on the TV shows that I have seen. So it's going to be a bit different. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to trying out the tier list here. This is only the third time I've done this on the channel, so still pretty new to it. But I think this will be kind of a cool way to do another tier list ranking. So, yeah, a couple caveats to this one. I'm not literally doing every TV show I've seen because I think this would be probably like a 4 to 5 hour video in that case. So there are a couple caveats here. So I really tried to whittle down that total number that I had at the beginning, and I did get it down to about 65. I think, and maybe I'm off by 1 or 2, but I think it's 65 total TV shows here we have to do the ranking for this tier list. And the one requirement that really helped is that I basically made it so that I had to have seen 2 full seasons, complete all the way through 2 seasons of the TV show to have it here on this list, right? Now, the only thing that's a bit of a caveat to that caveat is miniseries, right? So technically miniseries, and I'm also going to throw in anthology shows, which have really became popular as of late in terms of the TV landscape. Anthology shows that I've only seen 1 season of, but it's basically like a mini-series, right? Because the next season of the show, something like True Detective, that is like the perfect example, and I have almost all the seasons of True Detective here on this list as well. That is the perfect example of season 1 of True Detective is just 1 spot on this ranking, if that makes sense, right? So any anthology show or miniseries is on this list still because I've seen all the way through it, and yes, it's not 2 seasons, but that's kind of like all the show had to offer. That's it, and that's just the 1 season that I've seen. So that's in a nutshell, that's basically the requirements here to have this, to be on this tier list, is that I've had to see either 2 seasons of the show, or it's a miniseries or anthology, and I've just seen the 1 season, or basically all of the episodes that came out to date for that series. So that's it. Of course, there's a lot of other ones here that I've only seen 1 season of, or I'm partway through season 2. A big one is going to be House of the Dragon. That's not here because it hasn't even aired 2 seasons, right? But in a few months from now, after making this video, it would meet the requirements. So there'll be a few like that, and a few throwback shows like Lost is not going to be here. I have not seen 2 seasons of that show. There's some other ones like that. Some of the big ones where I've seen, I've started it and just kind of didn't really get all the way into it, and it just didn't meet that requirement. So anyways, having said all that, really hope you guys enjoy this one, and if you do, please do like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. Would really appreciate that. And of course, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. A completely subjective topic here in terms of my TV shows, so I'd love to hear your TV shows. Obviously, you don't have to rank every single one of them. That would be pretty crazy, right? And maybe if you want to have, shows that you've finished, or just some of the ones that you come to mind in terms of your like top 5 or top 3, maybe just your favorite show, anything like that. Love to hear from you guys as always. But anyways, with all that said, let's now get into the tier list. Alright, so here we are on the tier list that I made, and of course I had to make this one. This is a custom-made tier list because obviously this did not exist, and had to put together, the 65 TV shows, and we have, all the posters down here for those. So, yeah. So in terms of the tiers here, I just kind of kept this like kind of the default, right? I did kind of have my own custom tiers for the last couple tier list videos I made, just because I feel like they kind of fit better. But in this case, I just kind of kept them the way that they are, in terms of, obviously, I mean, everyone knows, what these tiers basically mean, but I mean, S tier is just, there'll probably be a handful of shows in here. I think it'll probably end up being like my top 5 or maybe top 10 shows that I would consider. Obviously, I don't have like a concrete, list of that quite yet, and maybe I'm working on that in a future video, but I have an idea of kind of what my top 10 favorite shows or best shows that I consider to be the best would be, and that's probably what that is. And then, of course, just down from there, A is basically right there, but just below that kind of S tier, and then we go down, and I was considering doing an F tier, but I thought to myself, I'm like, well, why would I have an F tier? Because I probably would not have watched 2 seasons of that show if it was really belonged in an F tier, or in the case of a miniseries, I probably would not have watched the whole miniseries if I really didn't like it or I hated it. So that's the only reason that there's no F tier. But hopefully with 6 tiers, we'll be able to kind of spread it out a little bit in that way. And I'm going to try to rank, one over the other, even just within the tiers. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to take forever, obviously, with this. But, we'll see as we go what we can do with that. So let's get into things then with our first show here. I tried to randomize the order a little bit. I think most of it's going to be alphabetical in terms of the names of the shows, but I did kind of mix it up a little bit just to kind of, make it a little more interesting. But the first one we have then on this tier list is The Walking Dead. And I mean, if you've been watching the channel at all, or, you kind of just look around on the channel, not as much lately, but definitely, throughout the years, Walking Dead has been, that show for me. So, I mean, yeah, it's S tier for sure. It's up there. It's definitely a top 5 TV show for me all time. Just absolutely love the show. I think I started watching live at the end of season 5, or maybe, somewhere through, season 5 there. And then watched live, ever since then. I think season 10 and 11, I did fall behind. That was the time where I stopped, watching every single Sunday on AMC, like at 9 p.m. Was there for each episode. I kind of fell back a little bit, right, for those. But I do think the finale was pretty good for what they had to work with. I think they did a really good job with that finale, the series finale, that is. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I would say the show peaked in season 6. That's my, favorite season of the show. I also really, really love season 1. Season 2, I think, is so underrated for The Walking Dead. Well, I guess a lot of people do like it, but to me, it's, number 2 probably in terms of seasons overall. But I do think season 6 was the peak. But we still have some really great moments, and Negan's one of my favorite villains in TV history, and he comes in season 7. So some great moments throughout, but yeah, to me, this show just means so much. And obviously, objectively speaking, do I think it's the best show throughout its whole run? No, right? No, probably not. But at its peak, again, season 2 to maybe season 6, that time there, I think it's up there with the top of TV, but definitely some weaker seasons in there too. Okay, so next is 13 Reasons Why. This is interesting, and you know what? It's got to go in the E for sure. And you know what? Maybe I was just talking about the F tier. Maybe I would put this in F tier, but I have to say I got a lot of, and I don't even know if you can really say this, but I did. I got a lot of enjoyment out of watching that first season of 13 Reasons Why. Just at the time, I wasn't really, I hadn't seen a lot of the shows on this tier list for sure. And I was kind of more into kind of the binge-worthy Netflix shows. I guess you could maybe call this teen drama, right? And so I was more into that. Nowadays, I probably wouldn't even sniff. I wouldn't even think about watching a show like this. Something like Outer Banks comes to mind. I'm just not interested at all. And that's kind of a big show right now in this type of genre, if you will. But at the time, I enjoyed it, and and something I do really respect though about season one, even in hindsight, is I think it was really well planned out, and it lended itself so well to a TV season to have 13 episodes, each episode be a side of the tape that Hannah Baker left. I just think that was such a good concept, and something that hasn't really. I mean, some shows do that, but I feel like it was pretty unique, and still is, to kind of have that theme and be committed to it and have that tape and have a certain character be spotlighted with the tape each episode and kind of unraveling the story. I thought it was just such a fascinating way to tell the story. The story itself, though, I mean, in hindsight, I don't know. I think there's a lot of troubling things. Problematic is probably a good word to use. It's just, yeah, just the whole idea of the show of Hannah Baker committing suicide and then being able to seek revenge basically after death. It's a messy one, right? I think it's a really messy message, and some really crazy kind of moments. And stuff that kind of became, really infamous, if you will, from the first few seasons of the show. And I have to say, I have not seen season 4 and the majority of season 3. I only watched the first couple and then the start of season 3, and I was like, all right, that's it. And season 2 I found mildly interesting, but to me, I still think 13 Reasons Why just stayed as that first season, as a limited series. I think its legacy would be so much better. You could say that for a lot of movie franchises and TV shows these days, of course, but I think this one really is a great example of, maybe they stretched this one out a little too far. For sure. So anyways, a lot to say, but it's definitely in the bottom tier, and it will probably be towards the bottom of this list. All right, so next then is American Crime Story, The People v. O.J. Simpson, and I have to be honest, I think I saw this when it was airing, or maybe after it just finished airing, and I have not seen it since. Of course, I've seen clips of it since, and of course, the recent news of OJ's passing, some of those clips have been around, and I've seen them, but I have not seen the show since then, so it's been, at least 5 years, right? More than that, right? Probably 6 or almost 7 years now. So it's been a long time. There's a few things I remember. Obviously, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s performance as OJ was amazing. Sterling K. Brown, Sarah Paulson, just some really great performances in this one. And I think the most impressive element of this series was just how realistic they were able to make it. And I think a big thing, I would argue that this kind of started it in terms of the miniseries landscape on TV, but maybe I'm wrong. But the big thing with this was those YouTube videos of the side-by-side, right? Of the real footage versus what the show did. And they nailed a lot of the stuff, really paid attention to a lot of the details here, and made the show feel so real. And I get it, though. Some people would have the complaint of, well, what's the point of watching the show when I could just watch the real thing if that's what they were just trying to copy? But I think it did transcend that a little bit, too, though. I think it really did add some more stuff to that. So this is a tough one. Like I said, I can't remember it that well, but I was really impressed by it at the time. Like I said, some great performances. So I'm going to put it in B, I think, maybe towards the bottom of B, when all is said and done. But for now, I'll put it in B, I think, for there. Okay. So next then is American Vandal. And so this is the first example of I guess American Crime Story as well, but this is an example of the anthology, right? So there's American Vandal, Season 1 and Season 2. I'm not a huge fan of Season 2. I don't even think I actually made it to the end of it, or else it would probably be here, right? So this is just Season 1, just the Jimmy Tatro, right? Who Drew the Dicks. That is, what I'm, ranking here in terms of American Vandal. So I was really impressed with this show, and even as it has aged now and looking back on this show, I just think it's so impressive, what they were able to do with Netflix. It almost feels kind of like, it feels more like a YouTube series or something like that, right? But it's on that level of Netflix, and it's just really crazy to think that Netflix, made this show, or I guess it wasn't a Netflix, studios production and that, but it aired on Netflix. Netflix greenlit it, on the platform. And it's just kind of crazy to think that it was on there at one time. And I'm not sure if it's still on there even now. But anyways, I just really enjoyed it at the time, and I still think it's impressive. And I think it's just brilliant the way that it was able to, be this kind of mockumentary, if you will, kind of, poking fun at a lot of these, true crime documentaries and the way that they're done. And it was just hilarious, throughout the whole season, just really funny. And obviously Jimmy Tatro, love, his stuff on YouTube, and obviously Real Bros of Simi Valley, absolutely love that show. I didn't count it here in this list, but I do really like that show as well. And he just brings so much to this season of American Vandal. So I'm gonna have to put it in A. I really am. I think it's a really, really smart show, but it's still funny, and it obviously it's who drew the dicks. It's still that immaturity is there, but I think it's really smart the way it does it. So yeah, have to put that in A. But yeah, definitely towards the bottom of A. You know what? Maybe that's a little high. Maybe I go B for now. We'll go top of B, and we'll see later on if we want to move it up or not. But okay, so next then is Band of Brothers. Easy S. Easy S. To me, this is, the best miniseries ever made, right? I think that's like a pretty easy thing to say. Just amazing, right? Just everything that Spielberg and Tom Hanks put into this. The budget, it was like over $200 million, I think, all in for this miniseries. And it shows. It's just so damn good throughout its run. I will say that there's a couple episodes here that I don't think are quite on the same level, but it almost doesn't matter. Like, the rest of the episodes here, and some of the episodes really do stand out. So when I talk about just the episodes in general, some of them are almost like movies, right? Like each week was almost a movie within this miniseries. And, there's a couple weaker episodes in my opinion, but the stronger ones really, really strong and really stand out. So yeah, just an amazing series. And one of the big things to me was just watching this series, obviously years later, given my age, but it was just so fascinating to see so many actors who are in a ton of TV shows now or who are in movies. Just so many recognizable faces in the show, and they were so great. Just some of them. Neil McDonough, Michael Cudlitz, Damian Lewis, obviously, as the main, as our main kind of character, if you will, though there's a lot of characters, but who else? Jimmy Fallon is in this as well. We get, there's just a whole lot of them that you could, go into and really discover here. Colin Hanks is in there too. So yeah, just a lot of them that you can really go into there with Band of Brothers. So yeah, really great series. To me, the best miniseries ever made. It's easily into the S tier there for sure. Okay, so the Kaminsky Method is next here on Netflix, and Alan Arkin, I believe, passed within the last year or so, something like that. So kind of unfortunate, but it was great to see, and he wasn't even actually in the last season of the Kaminsky Method, even though he was still, alive, but probably not well enough to work at that point. It was just a couple years before he passed. But 2 great seasons with Alan Arkin and Michael Douglas, a really great comedic duo, and I think this show is kind of a little underrated. I think at least the first 2 seasons are really strong, some really, really funny stuff from Chuck Lorre here. To me, from all the shows that I've kind of checked in and out on of Chuck Lorre, I think this is easily his best one. It's witty. It's I just think a lot of the comedy really lands, and Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin play off each other so well. having said that, there is a third season with Kathleen Turner, who's in it, and Paul Reiser. Is in the third season as well, or they're the big focal points in that third season, and I think it's okay. I have a review I think for the season 3 that I did on the channel. I thought it was okay, and I do like the finale it ended off with. So yeah, I have to take that season 3 into consideration, in my ranking here. But that's tough. 2 great seasons though. I think we'll put it in C for now. I think that's just kind of middle of the pack. I think C is appropriate for that one, and we'll see how it moves down in that. So, okay, so next one here is a pretty recent one, and that's Under the Banner of Heaven. This was a limited series, I believe from 2022, I want to say, so just a couple years ago now. Starring Andrew Garfield, and we had Wyatt Russell, who gave an amazing performance, I think, in this series. They got really overlooked, unfortunately. Sam Worthington was really great, the best I've seen from him. I haven't seen much, but from the stuff I have seen, he was amazing in this. It's, about kind of the Mormons, right, the Latter-day Saints church, right, the Church of the Latter-day Saints, and it's obviously the extreme, right? It's this look at this true crime case of these two that killed a young mother and her baby, in the name of their kind of extremist beliefs. And so, I think it's Ron and Dan Lafferty. And Wyatt Russell and Sam Worthington play the two brothers. So yeah, just a fascinating look at this. Really interesting, I think, the angle they take. Yeah, is there some, cliches here? Is the series, all the way through, at the same level? Is it really delivering all the time? No, I don't think it was. It was kind of uneven at times. But just overall, I think it was a really fascinating series. So we'll put that in D for now. Also, Andrew Garfield, I think it's the best work that he's done. Just absolutely amazing, the stuff that he did there too. So. Okay, so next then is Barry. This is an interesting one because it's almost an S, but I think I'm going to have to put it in A. I think it's just below that kind of S tier, maybe towards the top of A by the time we're done. But yeah, I mean, the first 2 seasons of Barry, to me, and I've said this before, season 3 and 4, when you look back in hindsight, and I haven't done this yet, but I really do want to, is when you rewatch the show all the way through, I think it's really going to be, it's really going to stick out even more, that how different season 3 and 4 are from season 1 and 2. It's almost like a whole different show, or at least that's the way it felt like when I was watching, all the seasons here. So season 1 and 2 to me are still the best, though. Some really great stuff in both those seasons. I think season 2 would be my favorite, but some really, really just great comedy, great drama, and still one of the best episodes of any, really any TV show, but definitely a comedy TV show. Ronnie Lily in that season 2. I can't remember, I don't even think since I saw that episode, that I have laughed out loud that much for that long of a runtime of an episode. So that alone, I have to put it in A tier. And obviously season 3, I think, is probably the weakest season. I think season 4 was pretty good, actually. They do take kind of a gamble with things, and I liked it personally, but I know a lot of people, borderline hated the 4th season and what they did with it at the end. So that's what it is. I kind of liked it, though, and I really liked the series finale. I thought that was one of the best episodes of the series, and one of the better series finales that I've seen in the past few years for a show. So really great stuff from Barry there. All right. So next is Better Call Saul. I mean, obviously that is an S, S tier. And I would put it over Walking Dead at this point, especially with season 6. And sorry, I would put, I guess I'd put Band of Brothers over Walking Dead. Maybe, okay, we'll keep it at that for now. But, yeah, I mean, what more is there to say? By the end of this, I'm not sure where it is. Breaking Bad, okay, it's near the end, but, when I get to that point, you guys will see. Spoiler alert, it'll be an S tier, obviously. So Better Call Saul, just kind of by extension, is going to be an S tier too. It's going to be towards the top of it. because it is. I mean, it's an S tier show. I still take Breaking Bad over Better Call Saul personally. That's just my opinion, though. I do think Breaking Bad is just, better overall. But anyways, just in terms of Better Call Saul, really great show, obviously. Some really great moments. And season 6, I did have, some kind of problems. I don't know if you'd say problems, but kind of nitpicks, I guess, with season 6. But overall, I really liked it. I really liked the way that they almost treated that second half as like an epilogue, if you will. And that was something I really didn't see coming in the way they did that. So really great stuff for Better Call Saul. And what a great character study for Jimmy McGill, turning into Saul Goodman. So, yeah, obviously, I mean, can't say enough about Better Call Saul. Just really great. Some of the greatest elements from Breaking Bad, and they bring it over here, and I mean, even at points, do it better than they did in Breaking Bad. So, easily S tier for me. And in terms of a top 5 TV show, yeah, easily top 5, maybe even top 3 for me. Okay. So next then is Billions, and I have to say I've only seen, I think, 3 seasons of Billions, maybe even not all the way through the 3rd season of Billions, but the majority of it for sure. And I do really like the first 2 seasons of Billions. I really do. And obviously, if I was ranking the whole show of what I've heard and what I've kind of read about the show and what direction it goes in the later seasons, it'd probably be a lot lower. But I'm only ranking on the first, 3 seasons basically. And I really quite liked a lot of what I saw. I did think by season 3 it was already getting repetitive though, and that's kind of the main reason I probably fell off the show. It wasn't intentional, it just kind of happened. So yeah, I think some really great moments in the first couple seasons, but it definitely gets repetitive in just the 3rd season, and they went on for 7 seasons in total. So really great duo here with Damian Lewis and Paul Giamatti, of course, as Chuck Rhodes and Bobby Axelrod. So yeah, I really like Jeffrey DeMunn as well in the first couple of seasons of Billions. So this is a tough one for me. I think I would have to go C probably, and I would probably go with the Kaminsky method over it, just because I've seen that whole show and I kind of get the complete picture. Whereas Billions is maybe down there. Maybe C is a little too high, but we'll leave it at the bottom of C for now. Okay, so a really interesting one next, and this is Black Sails, that aired on Starz. Does not get enough attention. It really doesn't. A really, really great show. And I will say, season 1, though, of Black Sails, I don't know. I was having a really, hard time getting into season 1. There are some moments, and just the overall feel of the show just feels very, it just feels very fake. Really, like it just doesn't seem real. It just doesn't seem lived in. It really seems like a Hollywood production of a Pirates movie. Like not even like it feels even more fake than Pirates of the Caribbean, right? And Pirates of the Caribbean feels so grounded compared to season 1 of Black Sails, but when season 2 hits of Black Sails, I think like the tone, just the approach to the show changes drastically, and it becomes this very dark, grounded story about pirates and based off the Treasure Island stories, right? With Captain Flint and Long John Silver, and then we get Blackbeard later in the show, and just some really, really great moments and some of the best direction for some of the, something like Game of Thrones gets talked about all the time. Whereas Black Sails doesn't, and I think some of the direction and the set pieces, the action, all the stuff, I think it's comparable to Game of Thrones at times in Black Sails. So yeah, obviously the season 1 does kind of weigh it down a little bit, so I probably would have to go top of B for now with Black Sails. But season 2 and onwards, I think is just really great TV. Now, yeah, at times, is the acting the best ever? No. Is there some cliches and that kind of thing throughout it? Yeah, there is. So I wouldn't put it on the level of A and S for me, but some really great moments for sure. Okay, So Chernobyl. This is an interesting one because I think as time has went on, I think the appreciation and just the legacy of this series has even went up from where it was. And we had people when it aired in 2019 calling it the best TV show, of the year, of the last decade. Like this was obvious, like just shot up in people's ranking of TV shows and like was among their top. Then, and I feel like it's gotten even bigger or even a more positive reception since then. So this is a tough one for me because I think episode 1 specifically of Chernobyl is some of the best TV that has ever been put to the screen, or at least that I have seen put to the screen. I just think that's so intriguing, the way that they do that episode where there's really not much connection to any one character. It's very much showing, it's basically just putting you in their shoes of these people and their kind of reaction to the event of Chernobyl and what happened on that day. So I think episode 1's brilliant. Johan Rank, some great direction, and Craig Mazin, you got to give him credit for the writing as well, but to be honest, I think that episode is almost elevated by the lack of writing or the lack of dialogue and all that stuff. I think it actually is better without it because that's kind of what makes it so impactful. Now, as the series goes on, especially that finale, I was kind of disappointed, to be honest. I think that finale was very half-baked, and a lot of it's so unrealistic. A lot of that stuff just never happened in real life. And I think the message of the series was good enough. I think it was conveyed well, and I feel like that finale just really tried to hammer it home when it didn't need to. So, yeah, there's elements of Chernobyl that I really, really like, but, that finale I was not a huge fan of how it, all kind of concluded there from Craig Mazin. So this is a tough one for me. I guess I would have to probably put it in B, right? Just because of how impressive it was. But maybe... that's tough. That's tough. I mean, it's tough to rank Chernobyl and American Vandal in the same breath, but, I guess we'll put it here for now. We'll put it at the bottom of B just for now. Okay, so next then is Suits. This is a big one for me, not in the last few years, I have to say, as the years have went on. There's a few shows here on this list that, my kind of feeling on the show has obviously changed a little bit. Suits, and there's a few other shows like White Collar's another one, Scandal, I'm not sure where that is here. But there's a few shows like that I watched, years ago and absolutely loved. And they're the kind of shows that, I was really into binge watching and watched all these on Netflix. And, as the years went on, that's kind of faded a little bit for me. It's just not as interesting, these types of shows. But at the time I watched them, I mean, just absolutely loved them. Absolutely loved these types of shows. And Suits, I think, is the best. Maybe White Collar I would take over it, but it's one of the best, TV shows that I've seen in terms of, that kind of serialized drama that you would binge for, 5 or 6 seasons at a time, like I did for Suits. But I did watch it live, for many seasons as well, when it was airing still. I think with season 5, I started watching it live. So, yeah, really have a lot of love for Suits, but I don't think I'm going to put it in my S tier. Like I said, as the years have gone by, I think I've, admire it a little less than I used to. So maybe we'll just put it at the bottom of A. It means a lot to me. Really love the show. But I don't think it's quite an S anymore for me. At one time, it definitely would have been, though. But we'll put it there. And you know what? We'll put it over Barry just because Barry is a little uneven to me with those later 2 seasons. And Suits, I will say, it really does maintain, probably until, Mike and Rachel obviously leave. That's the big one at the end of season 7 going into season 8 there. But I think they did a decent job in kind of reinventing things for season 8. So, and it wasn't really up to them. Meghan Markle was leaving the show, so it's not like they decided to kill her off or write her off. That's just kind of what it was. And I think they did a good job with what they had to do. Okay. So next then is Justified City Primeval. This is literally from last year, where we're not even a year out from watching this series here. This is another recent one too as well with Dark Winds, but Justified City Primeval, it made my top 5 TV shows of last year, so, I did really like it. Obviously, I'm a huge Justified fan, which we'll get to Justified in just a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, I just think it's tough, because I think a really great point, and I talked about this when I talked about, it in my top 5 TV shows, is what if it wasn't called Justified? Like, if I had never seen the original series and just watched this series, I think my thoughts of it would be a lot less, right? A lot more negative than what I, got from it and what I thought from it coming out of it. So, I don't know. This is a tough one for me. I think I'm going to have to go C with it, probably. And maybe take it over, you know what? Maybe below Billions for me in C tier for now. Okay, so next then is Dark Winds. Again, season 2 just aired last year, not even a year out from watching season 2 now. But I think it's a really impressive show so far. I think season 2 was a step up from season 1. Now, the thing with a lot of these newer shows though is we're only 2 seasons in, right? I've seen up to date, but there's only 2 seasons and there's more coming. So I do take that into consideration when I'm ranking them against some of these other shows, because I don't know if the next few seasons are going to be bad or not on the same level and that type of thing. But, granted, for the 2 seasons that I have seen, I would probably put it, in the C tier somewhere, probably right there. Probably right there, a little bit above Justified. We'll put it there in the C tier for sure. Okay. So next then is Dope Sick, the limited series on Hulu, and this is from, I believe, 2021, I want to say. This was a pretty big show, and I think, again, in hindsight, looking back, the kind of legacy, the reception of this show has really improved, I think, since it was on, and it's really impactful. I think really generated conversation. I think Netflix also did a version of this. And it was like based off the exact same book and articles and that. And I've not seen that one, so I'm not sure how that one turned out. I think this one is considered the better one. It did come first after all, but anyways, I thought it was an impactful show. I thought some of the writing here was just very cliche, very forced, to basically say, what the whole message of the show was, which again, it was pretty evident anyways, and I think they kind of overdid it there in terms of the writing. And some of these situations were just so unrealistic at points in the show to where it kind of took you out of it, at least in my opinion, right? Now, having said that, it generated a really important conversation and got that message across. And so I think it did good in that aspect. And the performances here. Caitlin Dever, I think this is the best we've seen from her. Michael Keaton, some of the best work we've seen from him. Michael Stahlberg, Peter Sarsgaard, even an underrated performance of John Hugenaker in this one. Who else? Rosario Dawson. Like, just up and down this cast, just amazing performances with what they were given here. So that's a tough one for me. I think I would have to go Under the Banner of Heaven over it. So I think we'll put it in the D tier there. So yeah, some really redeeming qualities, but to me, just some of the stuff was just a little eye-rolling at times throughout the series here for Dope Sick. Okay, next one is Escape at Dannemora, and this one was from 2018 with Paul Dano and Benicio del Toro playing these 2 prison escapees based off the real story from, I believe, 2015 when these 2 prisoners escaped the New York prison, Dannemora, I believe it was called, or maybe still is called. This one I really, really enjoyed. At the time, I did a review for it on the channel here years ago. I really, really like this series, and I think Paul Dano, this is some of his best work. Benicio del Toro, so good in this. So I really, really enjoyed this miniseries here. One of the best miniseries, I would say. So I think I'm gonna have to put it is a little too high, and also Ben Stiller directs some of the episodes here, or maybe all of the episodes, I can't remember, and just some amazing directing throughout this one. So I think I'm gonna have to put it in A. I really am. I think, maybe that's a little high. Maybe like top of B might be a little better. Okay, so we'll put it top of B for now with Escape of Dannemora, but certainly has the opportunity to go up to A for sure. If we get later on and kind of rethinking things, we'll see where it ends up. But top of B for now is probably a good spot for that. Okay, so next then is Game of Thrones, right? Just the little show Game of Thrones on HBO, right? So Game of Thrones, this one I only watched through the whole series in 2020, I believe. And, I think I'd seen season 1, parts of it, kind of tried it, got into it. But the first time I actually watched through the whole show was 2020. I mean, just what more is there to say about Game of Thrones that hasn't been said already? It's just the kind of cliche thing of, parts of the show were amazing. The majority of the run until season, 7, I think a lot of people agree on, are some of the best television ever produced. And then the last season and parts of season 7 are pretty bad and really let, a lot of the viewers down. And just the show's, reception in general has really, really been tainted by that. To me personally, I think elements of season 6 even were kind of getting to that point. Obviously not in the same level of season 8, but it was kind of getting to that point. And then season 7, I always return back to the moment where Ed Sheeran is in an episode of Game of Thrones. That to me, just that moment, everything past that, it was just downhill from there. I think that moment, what a massive mistake. And that was really the time where the show really went for the culture, the pop culture, the virality of, trying to get a celebrity in an episode of the show. And it just really kind of got carried away to me. And that right there was kind of the pivotal moment to me of when the show took a turn. But I think before that, I saw kind of glimpses of that in terms of the writing. And then, of course, season 8 just completely off a cliff. And even season 7, to me, I think large parts of season 7 are just not that good. I mean, it's just not on the same level. But season 3 and 4, 5, parts of 5, season 2, season 1 even, like season 1 to 5, I mean, one of the best runs, one of the greatest runs of all time in terms of TV. So... and some really impressive direction. I mean, you want to talk about Battle of the Bastards, Watchers on the Wall, even like movies or TV, just really impressive. Some of the best work, ever put to screen, I would say, in those elements. So, I think this is a tough one. It's not S tier for me, obviously. It's not. A or B, I mean, this is tough. Would I put it in A? I mean, to me, it's just... those later seasons really take it down to me. I don't know. I may have to put in the top of B for now. I know that's kind of low, but I think I'm going to put in the top of B just for now. We'll stick it there. Okay, so then next is The Shield on FX, and this was a really, really groundbreaking show for the time. I believe it started airing in 2002. So, Michael Chiklis is the lead, Walton Goggins in this one, Catherine Dent, Michael Jace, who else? Kenneth Johnson, CC Pounder, right? Just some really, really great, performances throughout this one. And I will say I've only seen, I think it's season 4 that I was on or I had finished. So I have not seen all of The Shield, unfortunately, but I have heard that I've probably seen the best, parts up to the end of season 4. And I have heard, of course, that the final season and the finale are really impressive as well. So looking forward to, getting to that point, hopefully one day, coming back to it, but really impressed with what I saw and just such a groundbreaking show for the time. So I do really like the show, but I did have some trouble though with season 1 and 2, parts of 3. I think season 4 is really strong, but parts of season 2 and 3, just to me, I was just kind of waiting for it to kind of get over that peak, right? Or like really reach that level that I thought it would get to. And it does definitely at times, but it just doesn't quite reach that level enough for me. to put it in terms of like S and A tier, just for me. So, you know what? I think I'm going to have to put it, this is tough. I mean, would I take Black Sails over it, with that season 1? It's also tough because I haven't seen the whole thing. So, you know what? We'll put it over Black Sails for now. We'll put it in that B tier there, with the Shield. And maybe if I do see the whole show, maybe that series finale really hits home and brings it all together. Maybe it's higher on this list. Okay, so the next is The Righteous Gemstones, and this is 3 seasons. Season 3 just aired last year, so a pretty recent one as well. And the first of 3 Danny McBride HBO shows that we'll see here on this list. Big Danny McBride fan, spoiler alert there. But The Righteous Gemstones, I mean, I think we have to start, considering this to maybe be the best Danny McBride HBO show. To me, it's not there yet, but I think soon, especially with a really good season 4 that should be coming out later this year, I think it might be time. It might be time to consider it the best series that Danny McBride and Jody Hill and David Gordon Green and his team have produced so far. So, I don't know. Really, really enjoyed The Righteous Gemstones. I still think season 1 is the best season, but season 3 really hit it out of the park. So, this is tough for me, man. It's only been 3 seasons, so I think I have to count that into it, but maybe is it at, the bottom of A? Do I take Barry over it? Although it was a little uneven with the last couple seasons of Barry in there, and I think Righteous Gemstones has been strong all the way through, so I don't know. I think I may have to put it there. I know that's very high, but I think that's the right spot for it. I think it's got to go in A tier, and I think it's got to go above Barry for now. All right, so next then is a mini-series here, Godless, that aired on Netflix. I believe this was in 2017 that it aired, released, I guess, right, on Netflix. And I had watched it, I think, a year later or a couple years later. A big reason was Scoot McNairy, who I really like. I think he's a really underrated actor. He's been in some really great TV shows over the past few years. Actually, he has a great role in True Detective Season 3, which I'm going to talk about next, but he was one of the main reasons I checked this miniseries out, and he has a great role in this as well. So it's kind of a spin on a Western, but a female-centric Western, right? It's kind of telling that story, and this is from the same creator, Scott Frank, I believe is his name, that did The Queen's Gambit as well, and I think that came out a year or 2 after this series and received a lot of attention, and I don't know why Godless didn't receive it, and it did. It got quite a few Emmy Awards or nominations as well, but I think Godless should be right up there with Queen's Gambit in terms of, the attention it received. Really impressed with Godless. I do remember the last episode was kind of disappointing, though. I think the finale didn't quite tie things together, but some really great production value, some really great stuff there. Jack O'Connell as well, the star of this as well. He's amazing. Really, really great in this series as well. So, the last episode kind of disappointing. I remember some really great, action in this one. Some great dialogue as well, I thought. Really great stuff there with Scott Frank and his writing. Really liked a lot of the elements there, and some really great performances. Merritt Wever as well as in this one, and I believe she got nominated for the Emmy, or maybe even won the Emmy for Godless. Oh, and of course, Jeff Daniels is in this series as well. I completely forgot about that, but he is amazing in this as the villain, right? He's playing the villain in this, and he is so good in Godless. So yeah, this is a tough one. I would take it over these shows. I think it's a step above those for sure. Maybe the top of C tier then, or maybe Chernobyl though. It's close to Chernobyl. To me, Godless, yeah. Okay, we'll go top of C tier for now with Godless there. And it's been a few years since I've seen it, so, maybe if I rewatched it, might be different. But, okay, so True Detective Season 3, again, this is an example of, technically it's only 1 season of a show, but it's an anthology, so I've seen, all the episodes, that this story had to offer, if you will. So this is is and probably will be the last season Nick Pizzolatto was a part of True Detective. Obviously, he was, the one who started it with season 1, and here is season 3, starring Mahershala Ali, Stephen Dorff, Scoot McNairy, and Carmen Diogo, right, in this one. And I thought season 3, I think some people call it a return to form. I wouldn't go that far, obviously, some people, I don't think the majority of people, but some people thought it was a return to form. I wouldn't go that far. I think it's maybe better than season 2, though, and we'll get to season 2, but I really like some parts of season 2 more than others, I think, but I think it's better than season 2. Not anywhere close to me, though, to season 1, which is still, is, spoiler alert, probably going to end up somewhere close to S tier. It's right here, but yeah, season 3, a good season. I think the ending leaves a little to be, desired, right? It just doesn't, it's a little underwhelming, after the whole story and all these kind of, interesting mysteries, and they all just kind of end up being red herrings towards the end of the season. But some really great performances. I mean, Mahershala Ali this is the best we've seen from him in his career, at least to me. So yeah, some really great stuff here. Okay, so this is tough. Maybe I'd put it, at the bottom of C for now. Maybe I'd take it over Justified City Primeval, actually. Maybe over Dark Winds as well. I'm moving it up slowly here. It's slowly going up, but, maybe Billions I take over it, just those first few seasons. But, that seems like a bit of a weird spot for it. But we'll put it there. We'll put it in like kind of the middle there of C tier, and we'll leave it there. Okay, so the next one then is Hacks, the HBO Max comedy, and this one just meets the requirement. I've seen the 2 seasons. I think season 3 is like just out now. The first couple episodes are out, as of recording this, so definitely I'll be checking that out as well. So technically I'll be having seen 3 seasons of the show, but only at this point of this ranking I've only seen the first 2 seasons, and I think season 2 was actually a bit of an improvement, a bit of a step up from season 1. I liked elements of season 1. I think there was a couple episodes in there that were just like really great, really funny. And then, other parts of it were just kind of okay to me. But season 2, I feel like, the majority of that season was really funny. And I think they really embraced the best elements of what season 1 had to offer. Obviously, great performances here by Jean Smart and Hannah Einbinder. Great chemistry, a great duo. One of the best comedy duos, I'd say, that, on the air right now in TV. So overall, though, it's just not, I've said this kind of since the beginning, since I've been watching this show and covering it on the channel. It's just not, a show that I really, really, am invested in. I watch it. I think some elements of it are really funny. I get some really good laughs out of it, but just overall, it's definitely not my favorite show. So, this is a tough one. Would I put it in D, maybe at the top of D? Maybe, at the bottom of C. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go top of D for now. It kind of fits in with these. It's the same, years that this kind of aired in with these shows. So we'll put it at the top of D. Maybe that's low. And if season 3 really impresses me, then this could certainly move up. Probably, you're talking probably maybe top of C there if season 3 is really great. So, okay. So this one next, Justified. Yeah, easy S for me. Easy S. And I probably have to put Walking Dead over it. I may have to put it over Band of Brothers, though, just for the fact that it has so many seasons and that, it's just so impressive all the way through. Band of Brothers is great. Like I said, one of the greatest miniseries ever made, but it's a miniseries. I'll always take, a 5 or 6 season drama that's really good throughout over, just the one season miniseries. But yeah, I mean, this is a top 5 show for me, probably Justified. Just absolutely love this show. Raylan Givens, one of my favorite, main characters or lead characters in TV history from the shows that I've seen. Timothy Olyphant, so great. And the main thing, that I'll point out about the show, just to, briefly touch on, is I think of any show that I have seen, at least on this list, I think this show has the best side or supporting characters, if you will. Obviously, starting with Boyd Crowder, which, You could argue that he's a co-lead towards the end of the show, but still, he's a supporting character throughout the most of its run, I would argue. Amazing, right? And then you get so many just great side characters in this. Dewey Crow, who else? And then you get, obviously, in season 2, you get that whole family that come in, and some really great characters with them. Margot Martindale's, character in season 2, one really great one. You get Wynn Duffy as well. So just throughout, just some really great, memorable side characters. And it's been a few years since I've seen, all the way through Justified, so I can't remember every character, but and every season they had such good villains as well. Neil McDonough plays a great villain in season 3, which I think, is one of the best seasons of the show for sure, but just some really great stuff. And that duo of Boyd Crowder and Raylan Givens, it's timeless, man. Some really great moments throughout Justified. So yeah, easily a top 5 show for me all time. And it's really funny to look back on the show because I really, season 1, it's a procedural, this show. Like, there's barely any carryover from episode to episode. And then it kind of suddenly just switches towards the end of season 1 and becomes this kind of serialized arc at the end of season 1. And then it just leads into season 2, which is one of the best, seasons of television I've ever seen, I think. So really great stuff with Justified. Really love the show. Easily S tier for me. Okay, so then next is Killing Eve, and this is one as well that I've only seen parts of season 3. I don't even think I saw the whole 3rd season, which from what I've heard, is a good thing because see the first 2 seasons are very much, regarded very differently than season 3 and 4 of the show. And so I didn't really see those kind of bad parts. So perhaps I would rank this higher than someone who did. Season 1 of Killing Eve is really impressive. I was really blown away with some of the choices they make. I don't want to spoil anything, but character deaths, a specific character death, midway through the first season here, really blew me away and really kind of raised the stakes of the show. And it was really impressive. And to me, I mean, even if the show didn't deliver on anything else but Jodie Comer's performance in the show, it would be enough for me. Like, her performance as Villanelle in at least, the first 2 and a bit seasons that I saw, specifically season 2 to me, is so impressive. What she's able to do in playing this, psychopathic serial killer, but putting on this facade of these so many other characters that she's playing to kind of get what she wants and manipulate people, including Eve, played by Sandro, who is great too. But I mean, just an amazing performance. I can't believe still to this day that she won an Emmy for season 2. That came out of nowhere. It was so deserved, but I was so shocked that they actually recognized that performance because it's so nuanced, but it's so impressive to me. So really can't say enough about her and, really some great elements in Killing Eve. I think season 2 was almost basically a rehash of season 1, just in kind of different ways that I thought were pretty creative, but it was a rehash overall. So if this was just a limited series, though, just a season 1, this would probably be in that A or B conversation. But because it's not, because season 2 was a little bit repetitive, I think I would go somewhere in C probably here with Killing Eve. Some really great elements in it. So I'm not sure. I may put it over True Detective, maybe over Billions, the Kaminsky Method. Again, I'm only ranking, probably the best seasons of the show. So take that, in. But maybe, I'd take the Kaminsky Method over it, or maybe I would, take it over that. Maybe Godless. Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, you know what? Maybe put it at top of C for now. We'll put it there. Again, just the seasons that I saw, we'll put it in C there. Okay, so then Mad Men next. This is a big one, obviously, and unfortunately, it is not going to make my S tier. I was really impressed with Mad Men. By the way, I've not finished the show. I believe I'm on season 5 of Mad Men, so I'm almost there. I've seen the majority of the run. But it's kind of similar to The Shield, actually, unfortunately, with me. I was just kind of waiting for this show to really reach that next level, to be that kind of top of TV to me in terms of the quality and just constantly, delivering on that episode after episode. And to be fair, I don't really think that was the goal of this show, and it just never really reached that for me, and at least in the first 4 seasons that I saw. Season 2 I thought was really strong. To me, the best aspect of the show is that relationship dynamic between Betty and Dawn, right? And that really comes to a head in season 2. And to me, that was my, favorite, or what I consider to be the best part of the show, was that drama and kind of, all things, up to that point, all came to a head and kind of, reared their ugly head, if you will, in terms of Dawn's, extramarital affairs, and his actions. And I really liked that, but then after that, I think season 3 is really strong as well. Probably my favorite season from what I saw. But it just, to me, Don Draper just doesn't change enough. And that's something that really kind of bugged me as I was watching the show a little bit. Is like, yeah, he makes strides, right? He changes here. He does make different decisions, but then he usually always slipped back into that same, types of decisions he was making, especially with, his affairs and his kind of, the kind of, things he had on the side of these other women. And I know the show is so much more than that, but in terms of the main character, I was a little underwhelmed in terms of what Don Draper was throughout the seasons that I saw. But some really great ensemble performances here, really great. I was disappointed though. Is at the end of season 2 or 3, I can't remember, that a few of my favorite characters of the show actually departed and don't really come back. So I was a little bit disappointed there. But overall, just some really great stuff. I mean, the production design, the directing here, the performances, all really impressive and really at the top of their game. So this is going to have to go in a kind of similar spot to The Shield to me. I was in the same boat. I would probably put it over The Shield though, for sure. Game of Thrones, it would be in this area here. Maybe I put it over Escape of Dannemora, because I do really love episodes and points of the series for sure. Jared Harris in season 3 I really like, so we'll put it right there in the B tier for me. Okay, so next then is American Crime Story Impeachment. This is the most recent installment of American Crime Story, season 3, if you will. And this was about, Bill Clinton and Melanie Lewinsky. A very interesting story there, right? And, the story of Bill Clinton getting impeached for his, affair with Melanie Lewinsky while president of the United States. And I thought this was an interesting show. Some very cliche writing, and just some, kind of over-the-top melodrama at times for sure. So I'd probably put it in the D tier. Clive Owen gives a great performance as Bill Clinton, though, and Beanie Feldstein as Monica Lewinsky is pretty good. Sarah Paulson is really good in this as well. But yeah, it's just a little underwhelming. I think it's just a little too melodramatic for me, but an interesting story nonetheless. So, Dope Sick, would I put it over, I'd probably put it under Dope Sick to me, to be honest. Interesting story, but just not, quite on the, well, you know what, maybe I put it over Dope Sick though, maybe, more interesting to me personally, but yeah, it's right in there with that tier for sure. Okay, so next then is True Detective Season 1, and yeah, to me, This is so tough. It's either top of A or in S tier for me. I mean, this is some of the best TV ever made or ever put to screen, I think, at least from what I've seen. You get Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, some of the best performances on TV for sure, and such an intriguing story, such great dialogue throughout from Nick Pizzolatto. Just some really, and then the directing you want to talk about from, is it Cary Fukunaga that does specifically that one episode, that one sequence, which to me is one of the most impressive sequences in TV history. So just some amazing, and the finale really lands. The twists at the end of the season really, really work. So, yeah, I don't think I can put it in S tier, to be honest. I think it's got to be an A. And, that's so tough to put it over Suits to me, just because of, how much time and how much, I really love that show over so many years. And True Detective's only the one season. It's only 8 episodes. So, yeah, I'm going to have to put it in A. I think I'm going to have to put it below Suits, but some of the elements of True Detective are just so good. So, I don't know. I think we'll put it in A. We'll put it at the top of A for now. Maybe it should be an S, but yeah, just some really impressive stuff. Really loved the first season of True Detective there. And obviously, it spawned, the next few seasons now of the show as well. So really important impact there. Okay. Next, then, is Mayor of Easttown. This was the miniseries in 2021 with Kate Winslet. I was really impressed by this miniseries, and as time has gone on, I think it's really grown on me. I have not rewatched it, but I think just thinking back to it, I'm just so impressed with a lot of the stuff they did. Brett Inglesby has a few projects coming out this year, I think, or they're supposed to come out this year. And he, wrote all the episodes here. Craig Zobel directed, some really great direction here. Evan Peters, Kate Winslet, great performances. I mean, to me, this is some of Kate Winslet's best work of her career that I've seen. So, yeah, just amazing stuff for Mayor of Easttown. Now, there was some elements, though, of this that, maybe were a little predictable at times. But the other thing about this series, too, is you kind of had to be there, I think. If you watch the show now, I don't think it would have the same impact as it did in 2021. It was kind of May or June. It was right around this time, and there was almost nothing on at that time. This was kind of the water cooler show, if you will, or, the show that everyone was talking about and theorizing about and all this stuff. And, for 6 or 7 weeks when it was on, it was big. It was really big, and I was, each Sunday or whatever Saturday at midnight or whatever it came out, I was like chomping at the bit to see the next episode. So I don't know, for the time, maybe that kind of clouds my judgment a little bit here, my perception of this show, but I got to put it in C. I think it's better than Godless. I think it's better than Killing Eve. Would I even put it in B? Chernobyl and that? I'm not sure quite on that level. So we'll put it top of C for now with Mayor of Easttown. Again, just the time it was on, the impact it had, at least for me, and just TV in general at the time. I think, we'll put it in C there for now. Okay, so this is maybe the most recent one on this list. I'm not exactly sure, but I think so. It's Masters of the Air, which I literally just finished 2 months ago or 3 months ago now. It was at the beginning of this year that it aired. So this is kind of a tough one. I mean, it's so recent, but I was a little underwhelmed by it. As I've thought more about it in the last couple months, though, I have really kind of reconsidered my thought, because I do really respect that it's taking a different approach than Band of Brothers. In terms of being kind of the third installment with Band of Brothers, The Pacific, and now Masters of the Air. So this is from Spielberg and Tom Hanks again, but it's just taking a different approach than Band of Brothers. So it's really hard to criticize the show on not feeling like Band of Brothers, because that's kind of what they were going for with the show, and just kind of the nature of the story they're telling. It's just not the same show that has that brotherhood, that has that connection between all these characters. The reality, very, unfortunate, but, a lot of these characters didn't survive, the war, and didn't really make, close connections with each other. So, that's kind of the kind of the point of the series, if you will. So I've kind of became a little more positive on it, perhaps, than what I was. But I just don't think it all came together that well. I think some of the pacing, definitely had some issues for sure. And it's just not on the same level. I mean, it's definitely third in terms of the Pacific and Band of Brothers, in terms of the miniseries. So this is a tough one, though. Some of the direction, though, is really impressive in this series. They really nailed it. A few episodes in particular in this series, really, really impressive. And by the end of this year, I think it'll be right up there in terms of, some of the best sequences. Episode 3 in particular will easily be one of the best episodes of TV for me this year. So, yeah, some great elements. But I'm not sure. I mean, somewhere probably in C tier, I would think. True Detective, maybe I take it over that. Billions, I mean, that's tough. Godless, I probably, take it over, or take Godless over it, rather. I don't know. I mean, maybe over True Detective, maybe right there. It's also so tough because it's so recent, and I just don't have any hindsight, for my thoughts on it. So we'll put it there in C tier. Maybe that's a little low, but we'll stick it there. Okay, so then next is Narcos on Netflix, and this is a bit of a weird one, though, I will say, because this is almost an anthology show, right? Like, it almost is, because the first 2 seasons of the show are about Pablo Escobar, right? It's very much a contained story about Pablo Escobar, and then season 3 is about the Cali cartel, and it's telling a completely different story. And I can't remember, I think Pedro Pascal, right, sticks around for season 3, and Boyd Holbrook doesn't. I think he's only in the first 2 seasons with Pablo Escobar. So you could argue that, I mean, it's basically a different show in season 3, with the Cali cartel and the focus really shifting. And I have not even seen the full 3rd season about the Cali cartel. I've only seen about half of it. So this is really just me judging the first 2 seasons, basically the Pablo Escobar story of Narcos. At the time, I was really impressed with this show, I have to say. Though I do think it was kind of cheap the way they stretched out the story to 2 seasons. I still think if they just did it in 1 season, it would have been so good. But, it is what it is. They did stretch it out, and it felt a little cheap, a little unearned. But Wagner Moura as Pablo Escobar, I think he's so great in that role. Boyd Holbrook's great. Pedro Pascal, this was kind of early Pedro Pascal. Obviously he did Game of Thrones before that, I think. But this was a big role for him. And I just remember really liking him. So, really kind of, good memories of Narcos over the years. Obviously, I've kind of recognized that, maybe it wasn't the best show, but I did really like it, at the time. So I think we're going to have to go, this is tough, probably C tier with it. And maybe just take it over these 2 shows here for now. Take it over those. True Detective season 3 maybe, is better. So we'll put it right there in the C tier there for now. All right, so next then is Mindhunter on Netflix, and this was a really impressive series. Unfortunately, it sounds like we're not really going to get a season 3, although it's not completely off the table, but just doesn't seem like we're going to get it anytime soon, if we ever will. So some really, great stuff in 2 seasons, right? It's only 2 seasons of the show that have aired. Some really great stuff. I am not a fan, unfortunately, of the end of season 2. I think season 2 has some really great, moments and points about it that are way better than season 1. But the end of season 2 to me is just really weak, and really, to me it turns into like a cliche cop drama, which the show was just so much more than that in the first season and first half of season 2. So yeah, it's just unfortunate to me, that it turns into that. So that really kind of does taint it for me. However, season 1 and season 2, it's just parts of season 2, just such a fascinating take on the serial killers and exploring that. And what I really like about season 1 too is just how that affects somebody. How it affects, is it Holden Ford? Is that our main character's name? I'm kind of forgetting, but I think that's the main character's name, Holden Ford, something like that. Anyways, but how it affects our main character in this one, with Jonathan Groff, right? That's the actor who plays him. Holt McCallany, Anna Torv, really great, triple threat there, if you will. Really great cast. And how, interviewing these serial killers, trying to get into their minds, how that affects somebody, and how it kind of maybe even rubs off on them. And I think they do a really great job of exploring that in season 1, and that was so fascinating to me, just something I didn't really think about. And so really great. And obviously the directing here, just the tone and the style of things with Fincher, just really impressive. So yeah, I mean, it's got to go up pretty high for me. It's got to be in, this is tough, B or C. I don't know. I mean, there's parts of it that are just really great, but it's just the end of season 2, and it sucks because that's kind of where we end off, at least for now. And for that to be, to me, the weakest point of the show, it's tough. It's tough to leave on that note for a show. I don't know, but maybe B, maybe it's B, maybe over O.J. Simpson, maybe American Vandal, maybe I take it over just because it's more complete. But yeah, so let's go there with Mindhunter. Let's go in B tier there, and we'll just stick it there for now. Okay. So next then is Ozark, and I have not seen, I can't even remember, I'm in season 3 at some point, so I have not finished the show, and to be honest, I don't really plan on finishing the show, unfortunately. To me, I really liked season 1, and it was actually one of the first shows that I covered on my channel here, and I started my channel back in 2017, so it kind of has, fond memories to me of being that show that kind of started things off for me. But just in hindsight, my kind of thoughts on the show really declined, and I don't know. It's one of those shows that I've just looked back on and I just really am not a fan of. I really recognize the way that it's trying to emulate Breaking Bad, and Marty Byrde to me is just not a great character. Like, he's very one note, at least throughout what I've seen of the show, and it's just really frustrating to me watching that character. And I think Jason Bateman is good. I don't think he's amazing in it, but he's good. Laura Linney, I think, is really great, though. So yeah, there's some interesting elements, but it's really trying to emulate what Breaking Bad did, have that kind of main character and do this character study almost, but to me it just doesn't, it just falls on its face for most of the run. So yeah, I put it in D probably. Are there some really great moments of it at times? I guess in season 1 I thought there was some good moments, but I also think the pilot episode, though, I think the first episode, the premiere, is actually pretty good, the way it's written. But I don't know. I mean, I gotta go D with it. I gotta go probably, honestly, well, probably over Dope Sick, probably over Impeachment, but I'd take maybe Under the Banner of Heaven over it. I think, for, again, only 2 seasons of the show, or 2 and a bit, but that's where I would put it there. Okay, so next then is Power on Stars. And this is a fascinating one for me because I think I watched every bit of this show except the final season, or maybe just the last half of the final season. So it's so weird, right? Like, I watched the whole show all the way through, and then for some reason I just didn't finish it, and I haven't gone back to finish it. And the last time I watched the show was, when season 6 was airing. I watched the show live since I think season 3 or 2. And it's kind of weird to me. Like, I haven't seen really much of it in terms of the clips and that. I just haven't really gone back to the show at all, even though I invested 5 seasons into the show. So it's a weird one for me, and I remember really enjoying a lot of Power, especially the earlier seasons of the show. I really, really enjoyed it. So I don't know, like, it's a tough one to even rank here because I don't remember, a lot of, especially kind of the really early stuff, but I do remember the earlier seasons being better. And I think it's an interesting concept. I really do. I think it's a fascinating, thing about, I guess it's a kind of a common thing in TV. I guess we've seen it before, but it's an anti-hero, right? Playing the Ghost, right, is the main character here. And, it's an anti-hero. He's, kind of this upstanding businessman on one side, like this club owner or whatever, and then on the other side, at night, if you will, he's this drug dealer, right? Or, what would you call him? Maybe a kingpin. I don't know if you go that far, but, he's the head of this drug, organization. So it's a fascinating premise. I think it really does get stretched out, obviously, with later seasons, and that's what I've heard. But anyways, really fascinating show. So after saying all that, I have no idea where to put it still. I don't know. I mean, I guess I would put it probably in C, right? Like just for how long I watched the show and was invested in it at one time. So maybe right here is my thought, over Billions, or maybe below Billions, but I don't know. I just put more season into it. I don't know. We'll put it in C tier there, middle of C tier. I think that's a fine spot for it right now. Okay, so the next is Reservation Dogs. This is a new one, and I have not seen season 3, unfortunately, of Reservation Dogs, the final season. I've only seen the first 2 seasons, so I'll keep this brief. I think some episodes here are really, really great. Like, the highs of Reservation Dogs, to me, are up there in terms of, the best moments or the best highs of TV comedies of the past 5 years or so. It's just the consistency to me was the main issue with the show and probably the main reason I didn't watch the final season. It's just some episodes felt like full-on drama, and there just wasn't many laughs to be had. And I don't know. I felt like the comedy was much stronger than the drama, and when they really went into those emotional moments, it just didn't land for me in the same way that the comedy did. So I would have liked them to just stick to the comedy. I know that's kind of maybe a dumb thing to say because that's not what they wanted to do with the show. That's not what Sterling Harjo set out to do with the show. He wanted to do a little more than just comedy. But to me, that's what I felt like was the strong suit of the show. So I don't know. I would have to probably put it. Some of the moments are really, really great though in it. So I don't know. I'd probably put it around where Dark Winds is. Maybe over Dark Winds there in the C tier for now, Reservation Dogs. Okay, so then next is Resident Alien. Very similar, I would say, actually, to Reservation Dogs, though maybe a little lower than that. I haven't seen season 3 either. That came out this year. I've only seen the first 2 seasons of the show. I think season 2 was stronger, but it got a little too many episodes. It just kind of went in too many directions and did too much world building to the point where they kind of had to tone it down, I think, for this 3rd season, or from what I've heard. But I do really like, this kind of expansion of this universe, if you will, and this kind of, lore of the main alien with Harry. So yeah, Alan Tudyk is so great in this show. I mean, one of the best comedy performances I think I've seen in quite a while in a TV show. He's just so great. So yeah, I think, again, similar to Reservation Dogs, actually. I think when they go for just straight up comedy in this show, I think it's really, really great. When they go for the more drama and emotional moments, it just doesn't land as well for me. So I'm going to put it probably, Resident Alien, I'm going to probably put it right here in C tier for now. Again, maybe I see season 3, maybe I'm really impressed and it changes, but for now we'll put it there. Okay, so next then is Salvation on CBS, and this ran for 2 seasons and then got canceled. Yeah, this is a tough one for me. Maybe in the E tier, but I honestly got quite a bit of enjoyment out of this. This and Zoo, to me, I would put on like kind of a similar level, though I think Zoo is better. But these were the CBS shows that, to me, and I reviewed, I think, almost every episode of the 2 seasons here on the channel. It was just so much fun covering it. It's kind of ridiculous at times. It's melodrama, and all this stuff. But the premise was so good of this asteroid hurling at Earth, and they were trying to save the world. Though I will say it was kind of played itself out in the first season, and season 2, they just kind of, like a lot of other types of shows like this, they just kind of got out of control with it, and it became kind of chaotic with the plot. But anyways, it was kind of fun for what it was. So I don't know. It's tough, to put Salvation. I think you can put it in D tier. I think, overall, though, I just probably got more enjoyment out of it than Dope Sick, maybe. But I don't know. We'll put it at the bottom of D tier for now with Salvation there. Up next, we have What We Do in the Shadows on FX, and this has been one of my favorite comedies of the past. It's been on now 5 years. That's insane to think that it's been on 5 years, but it has. And season 6, the final season, is coming out later this year. I think we're going to get a date announcement probably any day now for this last final season now. So really looking forward to that. And I think there's just been some ups and downs with Shadows, but the highs of this show to me are among the highest of the highs for TV comedies, definitely of the last 5 years to me. It's right there, in terms of at least just talking about the highs of the show. It's right there with Barry and the Righteous Gemstones to me. Now, consistency is the main issue, and that just doesn't compare to Barry and Gemstones with what we do in the Shadows, especially season 3 and 4, specifically 4. I think was really kind of a little disappointing, but again, a couple of the episodes in season 4 were just unbelievably great. Now, season 5, I think, was a bit of a return to form. I really liked a lot of the stuff they did in season 5, and I don't think there was a single bad episode, where I think there were a few of those in both season 3 and 4. But I just love the show because of what they're able to do with the lore of vampires and just all the world of the creatures that they can create and bring in and kind of the myths of stuff. It's just so interesting, so intriguing to see, and then the comedy that just kind of gets thrown in there on top of it is just so great. So I really, enjoy, and the first couple seasons of Shadows, specifically season 2, I think, just banger after banger in terms of the episodes there for season 2, with Jackie Daytona, with On the Run. That episode is one of the best in terms of comedies that I've seen the past few years. Like, just again, the highs of the show are so high. Unfortunately, the consistency is not quite there. So I don't think I could put it on the level of Barry and Gemstones in that A tier. But I think I would put it probably in B tier. I mean, maybe C tier. That's so tough. Maybe like the top of C tier, just because it's been kind of uneven at times. But like I said, the highs of the show are just so great. So yeah, for now, I think we're going to go the top of C. But that does seem kind of low. The B tier, though, with Mindhunter and Chernobyl, I think Chernobyl's really impressive. But maybe I would take it over Chernobyl. I don't know. This is tough. All right, we'll put it in B tier, and I think we'll put it over... Okay, we'll put it over Chernobyl for now. We'll just leave it right there. Again, consistency is a bit of an issue here, though, with Shadows, but the highs of it, I think, are worthy of the B tier for sure. Okay. So next then is Scandal, and this is one of those shows where I talked about with Suits and White Collar, which we'll get to at the end. This is one of those shows that I absolutely loved for a few years, and I don't think I've finished this show either. There's a few weird ones on here that I just have not seen the final season. I think I've literally seen every single episode except the final season, and just after all these years, I've just never went back and watched the end of it. Or maybe, I started it and just never finished the last season. But Scandal, really great show for me, for many years on Netflix. Again, this was one of those that I just binged and, just was really invested into and then I watched it live, for a couple years as well. I think, at the end of probably season 4 and 5 there. Or maybe 6. Is there 7 seasons or 6 seasons? I can't remember. But anyways, really liked, a lot of this show. Really fascinating stuff with the political stuff. Always been interested in those types of shows and just politics in general. And so seeing kind of the president and, seeing Olivia Pope as the fixer, especially in those early seasons, I just really was invested in that. I found that so fascinating. Now, of course, looking back on it, it's filled with, the Shonda Rhimes writing, tons of melodrama, the cliches, and that's kind of what it is. But I think Olivia Pope, to me, for my 2 cents, is an iconic character in TV. I think she really stands out. Kerry Washington does such a good job with her over the seasons of the show. So, I don't know. I would probably put it in a similar vein of Power, though I would put it over Power probably. So, yeah, maybe... that's tough. I don't think it's quite in B tier. I don't think I could put it that high. The Kaminsky Method, do I take it over Scandal? Probably. So, you know what? Maybe we'll just put it right there. I think that's maybe fine. Again, for a period of time, it was probably one of my favorite shows, on the air that I was watching. But as time has went by, it's definitely went down for me there. Okay, so then next is another season American Crime Story. We got 3 of them, and so we're already on the 2. So this is the last one, and this is the assassination of Gianni Versace, season 2, and this season was interesting to me. I mean, Darren Criss, right, playing Andrew Cunanan, and obviously based off the real events, the serial killer then who assassinated Gianni Versace, based off the title. I think Darren Criss's performance in this series was just amazing. Probably too good for what a lot of the series ended up being, unfortunately. But some really great writing. In the first few episodes, the directing here I think was really interesting, and like I said, his performance really added to it. But the end of the series just really fell off, unfortunately. And the main focal point of this whole, I guess the main issue really with this series is that it's called The Assassination of Gianni Versace. And it was really misleading the way they marketed this, and even the title of the show, because it's really a show about Andrew Cunanan, the serial killer who did it. And it's especially towards the end of the series, I mean, it's really just about his downfall, and what happens to him. We get a lot of stuff about flashbacks with him and his life, and then they try to put it side by side with some of the stuff with Versace still going on. We have him in flashbacks, but it has nothing to do with what's happening with Andrew Cunanan. So the concept for the series, I think, just wasn't really fully fleshed out. It was just kind of weird, and to me, just dishonest marketing this as the series about the Gianni Versace assassination. And after the first couple episodes, it's just not that. It's very much about this serial killer, Andrew Cunanan, and there's some interesting stuff to be mined there. But it's just, I think, kind of dishonest the way it was advertised. But anyway, so yeah, it's definitely the worst out of the 3. So we have the People vs. O.J. Simpson and impeachment. It's definitely the worst out of the 3. I would have to probably put it here above 13 Reasons Why. Probably, I think 13 Reasons Why might end up being last place there. But I think I would probably put Gianni Versace in that last tier. Again, the dishonest kind of false marketing to me really did kind of irk me with the way it ended up there. Okay. Stranger Things. Now, this is an interesting one for me because I've said this before to some friends, and I think I've said this on the channel numerous times at this point because I've reviewed, I think the season 3 and 4 of Stranger Things. If Stranger Things had just been the first season and they have never aired another episode of it, to me, this would be probably an S. Just season 1 of the show, just a limited series, Stranger Things, it would probably be an S. No, that's not what happened, right? Netflix saw it, and it has, of course, become massive. I mean, one of the biggest, if not the biggest show, on right now. And, the final season, I think, is coming later this year or next year. So, yeah, I mean, obviously I was wrong. It made tons of money, and a lot of people love all the last few seasons. But I think season 1 is just so strong, and every season after it has just been kind of trying to duplicate that or kind of top that, and it just hasn't reached that same bar to me. And I don't think it will. It's just impossible to capture the exact tone, especially with all these actors looking so much older right after all these years. But the tone of just the younger kids as well in that first season, I think just so good, on that level of the Goonies, a movie like Super 8, I really like that movie from, I think it was 2011 or something like that. It's in that same vein, right, of these kind of younger kids, but this monster kind of having the sci-fi element to it arises, and I just, so good, and the nostalgia there, right? So yeah, I just think it was just really impressive what season 1 did. Season 2, I like it quite a lot. I love Sean Astin in season 2, but it's very much just trying to basically do what season 1 did, but bigger, right? And then season 3, I was kind of disappointed with, and season 4 I thought was a little bit better, but yeah, just not quite on that same level. So this is tough to me with Stranger Things. It's tough to put it here though, because again, you have season 1, which to me is S tier. So just in that alone, I think you got to go higher than probably C tier. I think it's got to be in B tier in some point, right? I mean, I think it's got to be. I get a lot of enjoyment out of, watching it, while compared to maybe like Chernobyl, probably I get more enjoyment out of it. What we do in the shadows, though, maybe put that over. This is so tough. I mean, maybe over, definitely not over Mindhunter. Definitely not over Mindhunter for me. So yeah, like maybe right there though. Maybe right there for Stranger Things for me. Again, season 1 would be an S, but you have to include the other seasons in there. Okay. Next then is Heels on Starz, and this just wrapped up last year. It was canceled after 2 seasons, so it kind of just barely met the requirement for this list. And both years it was on. Season 1 and 2 were in my top 5 TV shows of that year. I just really enjoyed Heels. I really did. I think season 2, at least the first half of it, is really impressive. I think it's, the strongest point of the series. The second half was a bit of a step down. It was a little underwhelming to me. But I thought the finale was good as well. And I think season 1 established some really interesting things there. Chris Bauer, so good in this. Stephen Amell and Alexander Ludwig, great too, as kind of our brothers, our main characters here at the forefront. Yeah, I don't know. This is a tough one. I mean, again, I think it's very much of its time. I think as years pass, it might go down for me, because in the last couple of years that it was on and it was in those lists, the level of TV hasn't been quite on the same level, as it has been in other years. So, maybe that's also why it kind of is inflated for me, to be completely honest. But I don't know. I would have to put it probably over Dark Winds. I'd have to put it over probably Reservation Dogs. Narcos, maybe. Would I put it over True Detective Season 3? Maybe, right? Maybe not though. Yeah, you know what? Maybe that. Yeah, we'll put it there. I think True Detective Season 3 is some really great points of it. But I think right there is probably good for Heels. Masters of the Air. You know what? I put it over Masters of the Air too. I really quite enjoyed Heels for the 2 seasons that we had there, for sure. Okay. Next one is Succession. This is a really interesting one to me. I think I got to go S tier. I think I got to. And this was interesting to me because when season 4, I think I would go bottom of S tier, but when season 4 was airing or I was kind of just coming to an end, I was kind of second guessing. I was like, is this a top 10 show for me? Like, I'm not sure. And then I kind of looked at my kind of rough list that I have, or kind of my idea of what that list would be, and I'm like, yeah, it's easily top 10 for me. Like, it probably is. I think it's probably top 8, top 9, if you will. But it's definitely in top 10. Just unbelievable television over the last 4 years that it was on. Season 2 to me is still one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen. Season 3 I think is really quite good, and then season 4 to me really hit it home. Obviously, Connor's wedding is going to be a standout episode of TV, I think, for years to come. Just some really great stuff they did in Succession, and what I've said all along, the comedy and the drama and the ability to blend those two and have such a pitch perfect tone throughout, the majority of the run. I think season 1 was a little rocky at the beginning, but the majority of the run that they were able to capture that tone between the comedy and the drama consistently. The funniest show, that I watched of when it came out, and also the most hard-hitting, kind of dramatic, emotional show that I watched as well. So the ability to do that, I think, is unmatched. Like, I don't even think Better Call Saul does that, Breaking Bad does that quite to the same degree, where it's almost an outright comedy at times, but then it's also really dramatic and really you're really invested in these characters and the relationships and everything. So yeah, can't say enough about Succession. And I think as the years go by, looking back on this and rewatching it, I think it's only going to go up from here for sure. So yeah. Okay, so then next is the 100. This is a really interesting one. I just took a look at the pilot with my buddy Darren there. We did a review for the pilot episode, so Actually really fun looking back on that pilot because that's the first time I've seen that pilot in probably 4 or 5 years. And this show has now been off the air for almost 4 years, which is crazy. But it did run for 7 seasons. The final season, obviously, very disappointing, especially the end of it. Just very, very disappointing. And it was just so promising. I really love what they did at the end of season 5 and reinventing the show, and it just didn't come through. Now, The 100, this show, when you're talking about Scandal and Suits and that, this show really meant a lot to me for many years there. Again, one of those Netflix shows that I binged, I think, the first season or maybe first 2 seasons of it. And then watched it live ever since, and I was just so invested into this series. And yeah, as time has went by, obviously I recognized the melodrama, the cliches, and I did rewatch the show, I think, before season 5 or 6, and really picked up on that where I didn't the first time. Because I watched the show probably when I was binge watching, like maybe in 2014 or 2015, so this was almost 10 years ago, right, that I first watched the show, so a lot has changed since then. But still really do love it, looking back at it, some really great sci-fi elements, and what they were able to do with the show. Darren made a great point in our review. What they were able to do with their budget and the restrictions that they had in building this high-concept sci-fi show, I think it's really, really impressive. So, this is tough. I think it's got to go in B. I don't think I'd put it in A, but I think I would put it in B, and I'd probably put it, I'd probably take Black Sails over it, probably take Mindhunter over it. To me, though, it means more to me than Stranger Things, I think. I hate to do that, but just to me personally, it just means more to me, I think, for the time I spent with the show and how invested I was in it. Stranger Things Season 1, again, it'd be an S tier, but just as a whole, I think to me, the 100 means a little more to me. So I'm going to put it there in B tier there for sure. Okay, so the next then is David Simon's other show, not named The Wire or Treme, and that's The Deuce. I did watch this one, only 2 seasons of this show, but I believe it ran for 3 seasons. I didn't watch the final season of it. It was an interesting show, and this is one of the main reasons I'm a bit hesitant to watch The Wire. I think I've seen maybe like a couple episodes of The Wire. I think maybe I'm on episode 4 or something of the first season, so I've kind of like just touched a little bit of it, but I've not really got into it at all. And this is the main reason why I'm very hesitant to watch The Wire, because I just don't know that I really like this style. And I've heard that, not all seasons, but most of The Wire is in the same vein of kind of these perspective characters, right? Different worlds, kind of combining them within the same show and having the same kind of tone, but exploring kind of different elements of this world and this atmosphere, this time period, this city. In terms of The Wire and The Deuce as well. So, and even in The Deuce, like wildly different time periods. I think we do some serious time skips, if I remember, in between season 1 and 2, so, and 3. So yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of the approach of the way the story is told by David Simon. But some of the acting here, really impressive in The Deuce. Some really great stuff. The direction was really great. And obviously all the period work is so great. So every little detail, I think, is just so well done. And I really do pay attention to a lot of that stuff in The Deuce. So this is a tough one for me without the final season. I didn't see that conclusion for a lot of these characters. It was just kind of left off in season 2. And I felt like season 2 was not on the same level as season 1 to me. So this is a tough one. I mean, but again, the quality of this show is really impressive. So, I don't know. I mean, probably towards the bottom of C to me. Maybe even D. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a little low, though. I don't know. Maybe the top of D just for now. In terms of hacks, yeah, maybe just the top of D. I know maybe that's low, but quality-wise, it'd be like towards the top. But just my personal, enjoyment of it, I think it's got to go in D tier there for sure. Okay, so the North Water then. This was a limited series from 2021. I think it was only 5 episodes or 6 episodes or something like that, so not much here. But Jack O'Connell and Colin Farrell are two stars in this. I think is Stephen Graham as well in the first, don't want to spoil anything, but he's not in the whole thing. He's only in like the first couple episodes or something like that. But anyways, this was a fascinating miniseries that blew me away. I literally was not sure what direction they were going, and it just gets darker and darker and just more insane as it goes on, especially with Colin Farrell's character. He is insane in this series. Like, just absolutely incredible performance, but just so insane. What a crazy character. So to me, I always think of this one as kind of like the sequel to the Terror Season 1, which I'll get to, which I'll still take the Terror Season 1 over it, but I was really impressed with this series. Though the finale, I remember being a little underwhelmed by that finale. It didn't quite, I think it kind of tied things up a little too neatly. It didn't quite kind of bring things all full circle. It kind of rushed it a little bit. And for a miniseries with only like 5 episodes, that's a pretty big negative to me, that the finale just didn't tie it all up together. But anyways, I think I gotta put it in B. I think it's right around Chernobyl, but I maybe put it over Chernobyl. That's tough. I mean, it kind of both has almost the same problems to me, but that finale just not really coming through all the way. But it was really intense. Some of the direction here was really great too. So I don't know, personal enjoyment wise, I think I'm going to take the North Water over Chernobyl, but those two are really close there, I think. I don't know, maybe even B is a little high for the North Water. I think actually, you know what, now that I think about it at the time, I think I put Mare of Easttown over the North Water. So, yeah, no, I think that's got to be lower than that. Godless, I think Godless even came together a little better than it. The Kaminsky Method, maybe I'd take it over. Okay, so maybe now we're looking like more in this territory. This has gone way farther down, but Master There I think is a little more maybe impressive than North Water. This is tough, man. The finale not coming through. So yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll put it right there in terms of Masters There being a little more impressive, but I think it was great there. All right. Next up then is one of our only comedies, I think. I obviously pretty obvious by now. I should have maybe stated that, but I don't check out a lot of comedies. Mainly dramas is my thing. And this is probably, I would say, the purest comedy probably on this list, right? I would say. Maybe What We Do in the Shadows is close, but The Office, obviously the US version. I've seen episodes of the UK version, but not 2 seasons. So The Office, I've only seen the first 4 seasons of the show, which I'm told is, probably the best run of the series anyways. But only the first 4 seasons. And I will say, a lot of great moments in The Office. I don't hold this show in as high regard as other people, I would say, but I did check it out, and for a period of time I did really get into it. I think season 2 might be my favorite season. Is that kind of dumb to say? I don't know, but I really like season 2. A lot of the elements in there, early on. But I do like season 3, I guess, as well. Season 4 is really strong. Some really great episodes that kind of stick out to you. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I would put this. This is so hard because it's so unlike everything else on this list. Basically, right? Like it just kind of is so different. But I don't know. I mean, The Office. I think you'd have to put it in B tier. I mean, some of the moments are really, really funny. But maybe in like C tier here. This is a tough one. You almost need a whole tier alone just for The Office to be in terms of this list. This is so tough. I don't know. I gotta pick a spot. I don't know. I mean, I guess I would go like, gotta be C tier probably, right? I mean, I get more enjoyment out of some of these other shows, but I don't know. For now, I'll just stick it in the bottom of B. Maybe that's high, but I'm not sure where to put this show. It's really funny. I really do like parts of it, but I just don't like it as much as some other people. But I don't know. We'll put it in B for now. We'll leave it there. Enough thinking about that. But next, this one does not need much thinking, in my opinion, and that is Eastbound and Down. Definitely the bottom of S, but it's got to be an S tier. Danny McBride. This is where it all began with his HBO shows. We have one more of them coming up with Vice Principals, but yeah. Eastbound and Down to me is just, now there are parts of Eastbound and Down that are like not quite fully realized to me. Like there are certainly, plot points in that are just a little too dumb, right? Like the show in general is not taking itself too seriously, but there are some elements that are just a little too dumb, that are almost a little too absurd. But it's kind of just goes along with the show and how, absurd it is and just how far they're willing to go with a lot of the stuff. It's just so great. And some of the cameos here throughout the run of Eastbound and Down are so impressive. And especially for the time, I think this aired in like 2010. Just having like guys like Will Ferrell, Jason Sudeikis in this, and just some others that are just like, they weren't as big at this time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, Will Ferrell was pretty big, but even then, like, this was kind of still in that kind of earlier stage, I would say, of Will Ferrell's peak. To have him as a cameo in season 1, like, just some unbelievably funny moments and sequences from the show, and just amazing stuff from Danny McBride. And just, again, like, the willingness to pivot. It was season 2 even, and just go like a completely different direction for the show. And it's just so funny the way they paid off. And I don't know. I just really love Eastbound and Down. And I think, if I rewatched it again, because I haven't seen the show in many years now. But if I rewatched it again, maybe I would, realize that, maybe it's not actually, as good as what I remember maybe in terms of the consistency wise, throughout the 4 seasons. But some of the moments and stuff just stick out to me so much. It's got to be in the S tier for me. Okay, so the next is another recent one. It just ended like a couple months ago or maybe a month ago, and that is The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. And the only reason it made it on this list is because I think we can all say now it's a miniseries. It's only 6 episodes. There are not going to be any future seasons of this show. And so I've had to put it on here because it's a miniseries that I watched all the way through. This is tough to me. I mean, there was parts of this that I really liked. Obviously, being a Walking Dead fan, Rick and Michonne back, I had to see it. But I was I was underwhelmed, by most of it, but not even really underwhelmed because it's kind of what I expected, with a lot of these spin-offs. I've been, expectations have been a little exceeded with Dead City in particular, which I think is better than this show. I really do. My expectations are pretty low, and that's kind of where they came in, for this show. To be honest, and that finale was really disappointing. I think even people who really love the show up to that point were even turned off by that finale. So yeah, but I will say some of the best writing and some of the most, kind of the deepest themes and the most like interesting exploration of like the self and the human mind, I guess, in like the show's history, in the universe's history, in a couple of these episodes. So that was impressive. That was strong to me, but with that finale, it was a little disappointing. And then to basically, before it, we were led to believe that there was going to be multiple seasons of this, and then to see that end and be so rushed. Now it's like, oh, well, I guess we're not seeing more seasons of that, and that might be the last time we see Rick and Michonne. It left a bad taste in my mouth for sure. So, I don't know. I guess the bottom of D. I'm not quite sure that I'd put it in E, just because, again, there were some strong points. But, yeah, bottom of D for me with The Ones Who Live there for sure. Okay, so the next is The Pacific. This is the last one in terms of Band of Brothers and Masters of the Air, right, for this last year. So, The Pacific. To me, this is not on the same level as Band of Brothers. It's a bit of a step down, but again, it's a very different approach than Band of Brothers. It's obviously the Pacific theater of the war, a very different war, right? Just in general, a very different look of war and what that is, and exploration of it through these characters. But it's different, but I think the quality you can still judge and say, yeah, it's not quite as good as Band of Brothers. I think the acting is a particular point to me that's just not quite on the same level as Band of Brothers as it is in the Pacific, though we still got some really great performances, don't get me wrong. Rami Malek, I think, is so great in this, an earlier, performance from him. But yeah, I think the acting is just not quite on the same level. But some really impressive stuff, some really great episodes and directing. Specifically, I think it's like episode 9 of this series is one of the best in TV history, just in terms of the action and the scope of everything going on. Just so impressive. So, yeah, I have to put this pretty high. Where would I put it? Band of Brothers in S tier, Master of the Air is in C. So somewhere in here, I would have to probably put the Pacific. You know what? Maybe I would put it right here, maybe above OJ. I think that's probably a good spot for it right there. Because I would, I'd definitely take it over OJ. But maybe that's a little low. We'll stick it there for now. And looking at Escape of Dannemora, I think that really seems high. But I did really enjoy that miniseries. But seeing it there and the Pacific there, I don't know that quite adds up to me. But anyways, we'll just leave it there for now. Okay. So next then is The Sinner, Season 1. This is just Season 1. I know the show went on for, I think, 4 seasons or something. And I did watch parts of Season 2 and 3, but not all the way through. So this is just Season 1, the one with Jessica Biel. It was supposed to be a limited series to begin with, but they kind of added seasons. So this is just basically the limited series of it, the first season here. I was really impressed by this. I was at the time. I think Jessica Biel, easily the best I've seen from her. I haven't seen much, but I think she was really, really amazing in the lead role here of The Sinner. I still can't believe that she lost the Emmy this year, that the year that she was nominated. She was a lock for me to win, and she lost it somehow. But anyways, she was really great in this. Bill Pullman as well is really great, and he stuck around for future seasons. So, yeah, really enjoyed this first season of The Sinner. However, the finale, though, I think was a little underwhelming from what I remember. I think it was a little disappointing. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the one episode, like just before the finale, kind of just explains everything. It's almost just like this dump of information rather than actually kind of playing it out. And so that felt a little forced to me as well. But, yeah, I don't know. With time, I think this has kind of went down, to be completely honest. But The Sinner, I don't know, somewhere in C tier here probably. Narcos, maybe I would take that over it. Reservation on Dark Winds, Resident Alien, I mean, I don't know. This is another tough one. But maybe True Detective Season 3 over it. Maybe Narcos over it, but maybe I take it over Reservation Dogs. I think maybe that's a good spot for it right there. Okay, so another easy one is The Sopranos, S tier. This is the top of S tier for me right here. Spoiler alert, but another show is coming that's going to be over it. But yeah, to me, this is a top 2, top 3 at most top show for me. I mean, it's The Sopranos. There's not much more that needs to be said. I mean, some of the funniest moments of any TV show I've ever seen, and some moments and sequences of this show are unmatched still to this day, in terms of the tension and just the way that they were able to pull things off throughout the show that just shocked you, right? But also made so much sense and were really well crafted and well set up. Throughout its run. Just really great. So many great characters. And for my 2 cents, still probably the best singular performance in TV history with James Gandolfini as Tony Soprano. I think Walter White is a better character, but I think James Gandolfini is the single best performance ever in TV history. He's just so freaking great in this series. Throughout its whole run, like from the pilot episode to the finale, he is just so unbelievably great. So yeah, obviously The Sopranos in S tier there for sure. Okay, so The Terror season 1. This and it does have, there is a second season as well. I did not watch the second season, so just the season 1, the Arctic season, if you will. This starring Jared Harris. My God, I was so impressed with this series, and I really do want to rewatch it. I have not done so yet, so I have not seen the show in at least 5 years or so, I think. I do really want to rewatch it soon, but I absolutely love this series, and I think one of the best series finales for a show that I have seen still, almost since then, it's still in the top. I mean, such a great finale to tie everything up together after all the stuff that they went through. Just some fascinating supernatural elements here, some great acting. Yeah, I just think they did it. Really knocked this out of the park, this series. And it kind of came out of nowhere at the time, I remember. I was like, oh, a new series on AMC. It looks kind of cool. And this thing just blew me away. So I think I got to go A tier. For The Terror season 1. I know it's weird putting over Game of Thrones and Mad Men and that, but it's just so complete. I think it's 10 episodes if I remember correctly, and it's just so complete to me throughout its run, and then that finale tying everything together. I thought it was just really impressive. So I think maybe the bottom of A tier, I want to say, for The Terror season 1. I think, maybe Barry I take over it for I don't know. That's tough. I don't know if I take Barry over it. That's tough. Maybe I'll put it. Okay, we'll take Barry over it for now. But yeah, really, really love The Terror season 1 for sure. Okay, so then next is Time, and now they have done a season 2 or a series 2, I guess the British refer to it as, right? This was a BBC show, so when I watched the show, though, it was literally just called Time, and it was a miniseries. But now, just recently, they've done a second season. So technically, this is just season 1. It's Sean Bean and Stephen Graham. It was only 3 episodes as well. So I was even hesitant to put it on this list, because to me, that's more of like a special than a miniseries. But anyways, 3 episodes. I don't have many thoughts on this. I thought it was just really compelling. I think the acting is the main reason to check this out, though. I mean, Sean Bean and Stephen Graham are on another level in this series. I mean, just unbelievable. I think Stephen Graham is maybe even better than Sean Bean somehow. He is such a great actor, and this series really showed me his abilities, to really get into and dive into a lead character like this, and I hadn't seen that from him before this. So, yeah, I thought it was good. I think the 3rd episode, the finale, was just a little forced to me, especially Stephen Graham's character. It just seemed like, yeah, they were setting up the whole time that he was going to be kind of this cyclical thing where he was, he's a prison guard at the beginning, and spoiler alert, but, he's going to end up on the other side of the bars. And it was just kind of predictable, the way it ended up, but, still a good journey to get there with Time. So, yeah, I don't know, somewhere in C tier to me. I would probably put it over The Sinner, just in terms of the acting wise. But, yeah, that's probably about where I would put it. I was just really impressed with the acting. I think it was the main takeaway from Time. Okay, so next then is True Detective Season 2, which to me, like I said earlier, I actually think I like this season, I think, a lot more than other people. I think Colin Farrell's performance as the lead here is really impressive. I really like it. Vince Vaughn, Rachel McAdams, Taylor Kitsch, all really great too. It's just a bit of a different approach, I think, for season 2, and I don't think a lot of people were ready for that at the time that it aired, and so it just got such a negative perception of it. And I think the second half, though, is where I would definitely agree with people that it just is a little underwhelming, just kind of weak in terms of the writing for sure. But the first half of season 2, I think, is like close. I'm not saying it's on the same level, but it's close to the same level as season 1, to me at least. But yeah, the second half definitely falls through, and the finale is kind of weak as well. But elements of season 2 really enjoyed, for sure. So I don't know, I would have to put season 3 over it though, just as a whole. Season 3 kind of feels more complete than season 2, like I said, with the two halves. So I don't know. I mean, tough for me. You know what? I may actually just put it right below season 3 in this tier, to be honest. I might put it over Narcos. Although, maybe under Narcos. I don't know. We'll put it right there for now. But to me, it's not that far behind season 3. It really isn't, when I think back on it. So anyways. Okay, so then next is Under the Dome, and this is a CBS show very in the same kind of vein as Salvation and Zoo to me. I was in this kind of period where I loved a lot of these CBS, specifically in summer, right? They had summer shows on CBS, and they were really tapping into something there for a few years with Salvation and Zoo, Under the Dome. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones they had. I can't remember if any of these other ones on this list are CBS dramas as well. I don't think so. But anyways, specifically these three, and I definitely watched other ones, but maybe just not 2 seasons of them. I loved them. I just loved them for a period of time there. Was so invested. And Under the Dome, I legitimately think, though, season 1 is probably the best of any of these CBS shows, like I'm talking about. I think they developed a bit of a reputation for being very cliche and very, melodramatic and being kind of the typical network type of show, but I think season 1 is really great. I really impressed with season 1. Season 2, I remember being still good, but it was kind of getting a little bad. And then season 3, I mean, the show just goes in a completely different direction in season 3. And I think we have this twist with aliens, and then I think the aliens come down to Earth, and now all of a sudden I don't know. To me, I remember at least it turned into a completely different show. And I haven't seen this, I think, since it aired in season 3. So it's been a long time. But I do really remember liking season 1. So I don't know. To me, this is tough. It's tough. I can't really put it that high because of what it is, and for what season 3 ended up being. And you know what? I'm actually going to talk about Zoo next, because very similar, eerily similar comments that I have for Zoo, actually. It's kind of funny now seeing both shows like that. But anyway, so Under the Dome, that's tough. I mean, I did really enjoy season 1, though. I really did. So I got to put it maybe... Justified C. Yeah, I maybe got to put it at the bottom of C. I think that's a fair spot for it there in the C tier. So then Zoo, I feel very much the same now that I think about it. This is the first time I've ever realized this. But I feel the same way. I think Zoo season 1 is even better, though, than Under the Dome. I would take it over Under the Dome for sure. And then season 2 was kind of getting a little weird. And then season 3 is just completely goes off the deep end, especially the end of season 3. I really didn't like the end of season 3. I think that's one of the most, if not the most negative review I've ever given on my channel. I was covering season 3 when it was airing for Zoo, and I was very negative at the end of season 3, I remember. But anyways, so it's kind of hilarious how both of these were CBS summer shows on around the same time, and it was the exact same trajectory for both shows. But like I said, I do take Zoo over Under the Dome still for that first season. Such a fascinating concept about animals fighting back and actually getting, the kind of sentience, if you will, or not a sentience because they're already sentient beings, but just kind of that elevated brain and their ability to kind of think things through like humans and actually attack us. And we very quickly realize that we're screwed if all the animals team up against us in the world. So fascinating concept, but like I said, just completely off the deep end by the time season 3 came around. Okay, so after all that talking, where do I put it? Zoo. I really like season 1 of this show, and I did really enjoy it a lot. So, you know what? I think maybe over Narcos, I would say. I think that's a fair spot to put it just for season 1 there. You know, and now that I look at this, I don't know. I mean, Under the Dome, that seems kind of low for Under the Dome. But anyways, we'll stick with that for now with those 2 shows in C tier for sure. Okay, so next then is the last of the Danny McBride HBO shows, and that is Vice Principals. This has got to be very high for me as well. I really, really enjoy this one. It's so tough if Righteous Gemstones is better than Vice Principals. To me, I still have a hard time putting Gemstones over Vice Principals just because Vice Principals seems so complete. It was only 2 seasons, written to be that way, very concise story, and it just really came together well. So I still think I'm going to have to put Vice Principals over Gemstones. I think with a good season 4 of Gemstones, and maybe they do like 1 or 2 more seasons of it, wrap it up, I think it easily could end up being better than Vice Principals. But to me, just right now, the complete, you know, version of what that is, I think Vice Principals is going to be in that A tier for me. Absolutely love that show as well. Okay, so Waco, The Aftermath, this is E tier. This is easily E tier. I'm not sure. You know, Versace over it, 13 Reasons Why. Honestly, yeah. I am going to take 13 Reasons Why over it. This is a 5-episode miniseries that came out last year. As you'll see, is a follow-up to Waco, the miniseries that was in 2018, which will be higher than this for sure. Just a completely unnecessary miniseries, and it really did seem like they had 3 different shows or 3 different ideas for shows that couldn't get greenlit, and so they all just kind of packed them all into this one miniseries. Anyways, I have way more of my thoughts, detailed thoughts on this. I did a whole review on both Waco and Waco The Aftermath, so check that out if you want to hear more of my thoughts. But yeah, to me, it's probably, in terms of the quality, for sure, at least like writing and that stuff and directing, yeah, it's got to be E. Some of the performances are really great. I really feel bad for Michael Shannon. I think he does such a good job in this, and the writing is just not great. So anyways, that can take the bottom spot for now. Okay, so Waco, I would put it over, would I put it over Under the Banner of Heaven? That's tough to me. You know what, I think I would do that. I think, you know, Hacks probably I would keep over, well, I don't know. Maybe I would put Waco over Hacks, and maybe I'd put it over The Deuce actually as well. I don't know. I mean, just personally, you know, I thought this was actually, you know, well, would I put it into C tier? I don't know. I'm thinking of moving this up now, but I don't know. Maybe D tier is okay. I mean, again, the writing here I don't think is, you know, especially towards the end of the season, it is, you know, it's not the best. It's just not the best. A lot of cliches and just really unrealistic dialogue, and just a lot of characters here are just caricatures. Like, they're just like twirling mustache villains towards the end of the series. But I do really respect the way that they portrayed David Koresh and just this whole story, and giving it a bit of a different perspective than what had come before. And Taylor Kitsch, I think, is so great as David Koresh in this series. Best I've seen from Taylor Kitsch in his career. So, overall, I think that's a good spot for it. Maybe top of D. Although that does seem maybe like a little low. I did get a lot of enjoyment, you know, out of the series and found it really fascinating. But I don't know. We'll leave it there for now with D. But definitely, I mean, you know, leaps and bounds ahead of Aftermath for me. Okay, so next is Weird City it's called, but it's also a weird one because this is, I think, like the only YouTube original series I have on this list. They had a time there where they did a few shows and they were really getting into it, and then I haven't seen much from them in the past few years. Maybe I'm just, you know, not interested in them as much, but I haven't seen as many, you know, coming out, I haven't seen any shows come out from YouTube. But anyways, this was a miniseries from Jordan Peele, you know, that aired I think in 2018. And it was kind of an anthology show, actually very much like Twilight Zone or Black Mirror, right, kind of, or the modern Twilight Zone, where each episode is different characters, but based in the same kind of world, and exploring the same kind of themes and that social, satire a little bit, that social commentary. And I thought a couple episodes here were actually kind of interesting. And Jordan Peele obviously being there, it was very comedic, or some of the episodes were very comedic. But just overall, I mean, I don't know. Just the way I remember it, it wasn't that great. There was one specific episode that I thought Stephen Yeun was in it, and I absolutely loved that episode and thought it was hilarious. And the other ones were just kind of to me. So, you know what? I don't know. Maybe I'd put it at the top of this tier, or maybe at the bottom of D, from what I remember about Weird City. Okay, so the magnum opus, the big one, it is Breaking Bad, and it is number one in S tier. It's my favorite, or what I consider to be the best TV show of all time ever made. From all the shows that I've seen from this list, as you can see, it is the best. To me, the best character arc ever seen on TV is Walter White. The best character in TV history is Walter White. I don't have to say much more. Just so much here in this series that I absolutely love from beginning to end. And one of the things I thought about too, I think Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad are two of, if not the only two, shows that are consistent from beginning to end, that have well fleshed out arcs, that it really felt like they knew. Well, they did. Vince Gilligan knew from the very beginning he wanted to take Walter White, Mr. Chips, to Scarface, and he did that so well. To me, the best series finale of any TV show ever is Breaking Bad, and the best pilot of any TV show ever is Breaking Bad. From any of the pilots I've seen here on this list, and I've seen many, many more. Obviously, I didn't watch 2 seasons of them, but it's the best pilot that I've ever seen. Just unbelievable stuff. And I take it over The Sopranos. I will say, I think I've maybe said this before on the channel, but I think the highs of Sopranos are higher than Breaking Bad, but Breaking Bad is the more consistent show. It just is, to me. Sopranos has those episodes and those moments where, it's just a little weird. They go in kind of different directions. It almost is is not even really a serialized show at times. It's almost like a procedural, some of the episodes of Sopranos. And Breaking Bad, from beginning to end, is that consistent arc of Walter White and that story playing out, and I just prefer that. So I have to say Breaking Bad over Sopranos, but it's so close with those ones. It's so close for me there. So that top 5, I think, is literally what I would consider to be my top 5 TV shows. So that really worked out well. That's what my S tier looks like. And then just in terms of these last few, Westworld. I've only seen 2 seasons of Westworld. I never watched season 3, so some people may consider me lucky, I guess, for that. Westworld season 1, if it was just season 1, this would be pretty high on this tier list. It would be really quite high. You're probably talking about A tier. But season 2, it was kind of a little underwhelming, especially towards the end. I think it started off really well, but then the end was just disappointing to me. And then, of course, we go into season 3, which I haven't seen, but I've heard. And season 4 just goes off a cliff, right? It's tough, but I think season 1, especially the twist with, I don't want to spoil it, I guess, but, the hosts maybe and the humans, and that kind of being able to twist you the whole season into thinking that, and really even just believing in that whole concept that hosts and humans are different, and then the twist they lay on you really makes you reconsider everything that you've seen up to that point. And even it's almost meta, because that's the whole point of the show, is showing you, the development of the hosts and humans and how far along the hosts really are, and even them gaining consciousness towards the end of season 1 as well, and they explore that in season 2. But it puts you into that world, and they trick you even, and at least me. They definitely tricked me in season 1, and I will never forget that moment in season 1 when that twist happens. To me, still probably the best twist in TV history from what I've seen. season 1 really strong, season 2 kind of disappointing, but in terms of quality, like really a quality show as well. So this is tough. I mean, maybe I would put it, and it's so tough putting it anywhere high because of the reception. I mean, HBO doesn't even have it on its platform anymore, I don't think. Like, that's how bad it got towards the end of its run. So I don't know. I mean, this is so tough to put just the first 2 seasons. I don't know. I mean, maybe at the bottom of B, maybe, right? Just for that first season mainly. I think we'll just put it at the bottom of B there for me. Again, I have not seen the last 2 seasons for it. Okay, so White Collar then. This is going to be pretty high for me. I think I would actually take this over Suits. So we'll put it there, just above Suits in the A tier. Absolutely love White Collar. I mean, this again, though, was one of those shows with Suits and Scandal, Power you could throw in there, that I was just fell in love with and just binged the hell out of on Netflix at the time. Neil Caffrey to me is one of my favorite characters. He's just so cool and so interesting. Then you have side characters like Mozzie, who to me, my 2 cents, is one of the best supporting characters that I've seen in a TV show. Just so cool. Again, just so funny and so cool, so likable. And I really did enjoy the run of White Collar, and I will take it over Suits. Just in terms of the complete run. Suits, those last 2 seasons, kind of underwhelming, right, without Mike and Rachel. Mike comes back, but, largely without Mike and Rachel. But White Collar really lands in season 6. I really like the series finale, so I just take it over Suits. But to me, both are very comparable overall. Okay, so finally we've reached the last show on the tier list, and that is Yellow Jackets. Season 2 just finished in, I want to say, was it 2023, right? So last year, very beginning of last year, season 2 finished. So we're just 2 seasons in, and season 3 will be coming out later this year probably. So this is a weird one because I really liked, parts of season 1. I didn't think season 1 was like unbelievable, but I did really like parts of it and what it was kind of building to. And season 2 was a step down. It was a step down for sure. It wasn't like drastic to me, but it was definitely a step down. I don't think anyone would argue otherwise. So this is tough, right? Because it's the recent thing in my mind is season 2 being a step down, whereas season 1 I thought was stronger, but still such a unique show, and the stuff they explore in this show is just unparalleled in TV right now. Like, it's just so batshit crazy and insane. Watching these teenage girls do what they do to survive in the show, I think is fascinating. But the adult timeline has just been underwhelming so far. So I don't know. This is a tough one for me. I'm gonna have to probably put it in. I'd put it around where Hacks is, probably, to be honest. I'd probably put it over Hacks though. Looking at the shows here, although Justified City Primeval, Resident Alien. You know what? I maybe would put it over Reservation Dogs, maybe. Although that had some really funny moments. Dark Winds has been good, but I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to put it right here in C tier for that one. So there we have it. There is every TV show I've watched, with a couple caveats, but mainly every TV show I've watched and invested quite a bit of time in here in this tier list. So here's our final tier list, just to take a look at it. I think that S tier is great, although I did think I would maybe have a few more S tier shows. We have, eight in there, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 TV shows there in S tier, and then True Detective season 1 maybe just below that, and then we have those shows there. B tier, C tier definitely the biggest one, obviously, for the middle, but yeah, that's where it is. So anyways, that'll just about do it then for all of these shows ranked in the tier list.